What's up? What's up, guys? This is JC, and welcome to the Wealth Engineering Podcast. I created this podcast to educate and motivate you to build generational wealth and retire early. It is imperative that we learn how to manage our money because once we learn how to manage our money, we can take control of our true wealth, which is our time and our freedom. So, if this is something that interests you, I want you to smash the like button, subscribe, and click the bell. So today you've seen the title. We're going to talk about why is it important to build generational wealth. Now, I often talk about generational wealth on this channel, but why should you dedicate your lifestyle for this goal? Why should you care about generational wealth? So today we're going to discuss about all that. And I also want to mention again, if you guys are joining in, you can type in on the chat, click on the like button, really helps the channel grow. But I want to hear from you as well. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or anything you want to share, let us know on the comment section. I want to interact with you. That's one of the reasons why I like making streams is because I can interact with you live and we can be part of this podcast and this community together. So that's exactly what I mentioned. Again, also, if you want to be part of the community, you can also join the Discord channel. The link will be in the description after this video is posted, so you can join in as well. And yeah, let's get going. So I also want to share like something, and it's something that I've learned when I was about 29 years old, and it's basically stuck with me until then, and it's kind of like helping me guiding my life along the way. And I've learned a lot from this just by following this example. And it's basically say the say go by saying smart people, right? Smart people, they learn from their mistakes. Wise people learn from other people's mistake. All right. And what I want to do with this channel is whenever it's possible, I'm going to try to bring people in this channel that we can interview, we can ask questions. You guys can jump in on the chat and also ask questions. So um, that's basically what I'm going to do, invite people. And I'm actually inviting someone today to help me talk about the importance of generational wealth. Now, I'm 35 years old. I've already experienced some experience in my life already, but I think we can learn much better from people who are older than us. And that's basically what I wanted to do. Now, today I'm going to bring someone on the panel that's going to share his insight, his experience, and basically share with you why it is important to be part of to basically grow your generational wealth, to work on retirement early, and increase your network. So with that said, let me see if he's ready. Let me see. All right, all right. Let me add him to the screen. So I want to introduce you guys, Mr. Tony Berry. He's a very good friend. I've met him to another channel. He's been one of the reason why I invited him today is because one of his passion is actually sharing his life experience and knowledge and insights with people who are willing to listen, especially the younger generations. So someone like that for a young generation, someone like me, it's valuable because there is so much you can learn from other people's mistake, other people's life experience, other people's success as well, so that you can better shape your own life. And today we're talking about generational wealth. So, Mr. Tony Berry, how are you doing?
I'm fine. Thank you, John Charles. How are you? How's
Very
everything
good,
going?
very good. Now, don't let his pretty face fool you. He looks younger than me, but he's actually, if you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
So, yes, hello. Yes, I'm 59. So I turned
Wow.
59 this year. And thank you for the compliments, man. I get that. And so a lot of time I don't tell people how old I am because they don't believe me anyway. So, I mean, that's a good position to be in, right?
Exactly,
In 10
exactly.
years from now, I'll be in the same spot. So, yeah.
Exactly. It's funny because from my dad's side, no one cares about their age and they look old young. from my mom's side, everyone care about their age, and then they look very young. Even like I have an auntie, she's like 65 and old and up, and
Mhm.
she looks like she's 40, like early 40. She looks very young, and they're very proud of that. So it's so
Yes.
funny. I think I fell on my dad's side.
Yeah, no. You look young too, man. So no problem, man. You got
No worries, no worries.
years come, years to go.
but but exactly but I'm happy you came here, and thank you for being the first guest on the Wealth Engineering podcast. I
Thank you.
love your energy, I love your insights, and we're here to learn. Now I want to start by letting you introducing yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do? And let's go from there.
Yes. So, hi, I'm Tony Berry, and I'm a software engineer here in the Seattle, Washington area. I've been a software engineer for 11 years now. I've done all kind of things in my life. I was in the Air Force when I started off at 17. Stayed to Air Force 12 years. I got out. I worked more jobs, teaching English, teaching people in Saudi Arabia. What I did in the Air Force. Ended up in sales, and I saw an opportunity to get into the IT world during the 2008 2009 financial crisis that we had in the United States. I was in mortgage at the time, and I was taking a lot of applications. I was seeing what a lot of my clients were doing as far as occupations. And when you fill out a credit app, you see what kind of income they're making, things like that. And I noticed that a lot of people in IT were making some pretty good income. So I channeled my energies toward that when I got laid off, went back to school for that.
All right, all right. Well, that sounds like a lot. Let me ask you this. Let me go back and bring it back in a little bit. Now, let's say I would meet one of your friends in high school, and then
Yes.
I would ask him, "Hey, do you know Tony Berry? How would you describe him?" So, what do you think your friends from high school would say about you? Like, what kind of guy were you in high school?
Oh, that's a good question. They would say that I was a leader. I know off the bat they would say I'm always leading. I'm always getting people to do things. I was on the school. It's funny. I was in the school paper when I was in high school. I actually was a newspaper writer, and I played for the softball team. So I actually wrote everything up, and I learned how you can influence people by writing articles about things that you did, and how you can have control over what you write. And I got everybody on board that was on that newspaper team, and it was a good experience for me. So my teacher was mad when I went in the Air Force because he said, "Man, you're a great journalist. Why do you want to go waste it all in the military?" So that's my
Yeah.
experience right there. Yeah, in high
But
school.
hey, well, it's all these life experiences that leads you to insights you have to share with us today. So we're happy
Yes.
you have them. Now, let me ask you this: as a teenager, like, how are you thinking about money back then? Like, what did you think you were gonna do as an adult? Like, how you think you were gonna earn money? What was your idea in general about money back then?
Oh, yes, good question. So yes, as a teen, and I grew up. For those that know, I grew up poor. My family separated. My parents separated when I was 4 years old. So I was raised by a single mom. I remember raising my little brother and sister by myself when she'd go off to work or go off on the weekends, leave us home. I was 6 years old by myself. So I had to learn things pretty fast. Fast forward to high school, I was a poor high school kid going to school downtown. At lunch, I'd see my friends eating in these nice little restaurants like sandwich shops, and I'd have like a few coins in my pocket. I'd buy like 4 peppermints, and I'd hang out at the library during lunch period, acting like I was eating. And my friends never knew that I did that for 2 years in high school. Now, last year in high school, I actually got a job. I was working for the YMCA, so I'd get off work and work at night. So it was probably a part-time job, but it was enough to start getting me on my way income-wise. The problem I had growing up, the problem I had by the time I was in high school, learning, knowing, I didn't know what to do with money. I didn't really know what I was going to do for income because I wasn't exposed to a lot of occupations. When you're growing up in a neighborhood, you only see teacher, you doctor, lawyer, police officer, fireman. You don't really get exposed to a lot of different occupations. So either you're going to fall into that or you're going to go into the military, which is what I did. I didn't want to go in the military. I really wanted to go to college, but I was strapped for funds and I just had to make that choice right away. So I really at that time, honestly, I did not know what I was going to do to make a living for the rest of my life.
Mm. I understand where you're coming from now. From a different perspective, however, like me, I grew up in Haiti, and I have an Asian background,
Yes.
and one of the things like every parents in Haiti wants you to do is to either be a doctor or a lawyer. So that's basically how I was groomed to be. But I kind of like trying to dive away and go an engineer. But yes, I understand where you're coming from. Where you don't, as when you go in a black community, you don't necessarily see a variety of things you can do to kind of like influence your life decisions. And sometimes you just go with what you know, you go with what most people are doing in your surrounding, and that can influence your path as well. But I think you already lead up to it. So you went to the military, and how was your 20s in general? So in your 20s, what were you doing for a job? Was it mostly the military, and how are you earning money in general?
Excuse me. Yes. So I went in the military. I graduated from high school a year earlier. So I only went to high school for 3 years. I had enough credits. And I was at a crossroads where I went back to live with my dad for the last 6 months. And I loved my dad, but I wasn't feeling comfortable in that environment because I hadn't lived with him in 12 years up to that point. So I didn't really know him and his new wife and my stepbrother. So I had to make a decision around January of that year of 79. I said, okay, do you want to be a senior or you want to be a junior? I chose the senior route. I went ahead and raised my right hand to join the Air Force on delayed enlistment in February of that year. Ended up going to the service in July of 79. Now, all of my 20s, so all the way up to the time I was 30 years old when I separated from the military, after doing 12 years, I was in the Air Force. But my last, I would say 5 years in the Air Force. I was going to college, so I got my degree when I was in, and then I was also teaching English. I learned how to get another position. I was in Japan, in Okinawa, and I started just making extra money on the side. And I think it was at that time that I started thinking really about money,
Mm.
how the benefits of it, because the military, they don't pay you that much. But I was making that when I was making the side money, I started to think, oh, that was the first time in my life that I actually had started saving money.
And
Because in
how,
the
sorry,
military,
and how old were you around that time?
I was in my 20s. So I was 87, I was 25. So from the time I was 25 years old to the time I was 30, I worked two jobs. I was, like I said, in the Air Force, and then I was going to school. And after school, I was teaching English to local citizens in Japan.
Mm.
And so I was able to save up some money. That was the first time in my life that I ever saved any money up. But the problem was, after saving money, not knowing what to do with money, of course, money goes away pretty fast because you never learned how to, amass it, if you will, how to make it grow.
Oh man, like
Yes.
yes, different paths, but it all leads to the same way. Me too. At 25, I went the university route. I At 25, I got out of the university, and the first thing I did, I bought an Acura.
Yes.
First thing I did, I school was very hard for me. All right, so
Yes.
when I was in school, the one thing that was helping me waking up in the morning, go waiting for the bus, waiting for an hour before you get to school, and then start school at 8:30 until like 6:30. Oh man, it's that Acura, man. I was looking at it's an Acura TL Type X with that sound. It's basically it comes out with a racing kit. That was the one thing I did. And 3 months after I got my first job, look at my boss in the eyes. I'm like, you know what? Tomorrow I'm gonna come with my dream car. This guy was like, "Oh no, what is he doing?" But yeah, that's I made them spent so much money on cars. In While I was in college, there was a time I had three cars. Like,
Whoa.
my passion in my 20 were cars. So
Yes.
there was a time I had three cars. Now, if you add the value of these cars, they would be less than 10,000, all three of them, right?
Yes.
One of them was
And then
4,000.
devaluing as you're driving them. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
But you keep them clean,
Yeah.
in your 20s as a young man, I had one with leather seat, I had another I had another truck. As a young man, when you say, "Hey, baby, which car you want to pick up today to go?"
Yeah.
So
Yes.
that was my passion. So all that to say, like in my 20s, I didn't know any better. I thought I was supposed to go to school, get a job, and then you basically collect rewards. And me, honestly, I wanted to go to school to make money. I asked my mom early on, which job should I do if I want to make money. She told me, be a doctor. I'm like, no. I'm like, oh, and then we look into engineering, and I was like, okay, that looks like something I want to do because I was breaking all my toys. So I'm like, okay, I
Yes.
figured I'll learn how to assemble them, and
Mhm.
then I became an engineer. And yeah, and but I didn't know much about money saving, just collecting paycheck and spend it on liabilities. And that's we're gonna get to that later on, because there is a lack of financial literacy in the community, and that can show itself in many ways. But different paths. But at the end of the day, we're still learning it the same way. Me, my wake up call was at 29. 30 years old, that's when I'm like, you know what, I gotta find some other ways to live, some other ways to generate and make money, and that went on. But I want to move back to what you were saying.
Mhm.
So what about your life right now? So I understand in your 20s you started saving in your 20, about 25, as you were making a side income. Now I want to have an idea about right now. Like, what are you doing? Like, how is your life financially right now? Whatever you feel comfortable sharing,
Mhm.
and like, how is it right now?
Oh yeah. Oh, right now is the best time of my life financially. And I had to go through some bumps and bruises to do that. I know I mentioned I was saving the money in my 20s, but then in my 30s, then I lost my money.
Oh.
So because I wasn't, like I said, it's easy to get to save for it, but the hardest thing as a young man that grew up basically what I call female financing. And what I mean by that is I grew up in a single parent home, and I was taught to spend money on women, treat women right, treat them like queens, right? I never was taught how a man should amass wealth. So, in other words, I was never taught how to be a husband or a father or, like I said, amassing wealth. So, a lot of times, like you said earlier, smart people learn by their mistakes, wise people learn by other people's mistakes. I hadn't reached the wisdom yet, so I had to only learn by the mistakes that I made to come up to the point that I am at today. As I went further along from my 20s into my 30s and 40s, I started getting wiser, and then I started not making mistakes because of what other people were doing, right? So, but if I fast forward to the day, yes, financially, I'm sitting really well. I'm more focused on, even though I have I earn a lot where I work and I have a high income, I focus more on net worth. My goal that I always tell people, their goal should be to always try to. If you look at a pendulum, right? Most of the time, the pendulum is swinging all the way toward the right, or to the left. Let's go left, my left, right, to where you're working to make your money. Basically, if it's to the far left, the farthest as you can go, that means you're living paycheck to paycheck, okay, which is not a good way to live, right? So what I try to tell people to do is get that to swing all the way to center and then all the way to the right. When it gets all the way to the right, that means that you are living on 100% unearned income. As you're
Mm,
working, you should always strive to live on unearned income. And it's not your income that's important, it's your net worth. A lot of people mistakenly think that how much they make is important. But if you're making a lot of money, but you have a lot of debt, which a lot of us in the Black community do, I don't, but I know a lot of females have a lot of student debt. They
mm.
may be getting paid well over six figures a year, which is not that many. They have a very small percentage of Black females get paid more than 6% a year, or six figures a year, or they're making high eights or 80 or 70,000. They think it's good. Well, but their student loan debt is horrible. And the government, that's a debt that you cannot just write off. That debt stays with you until you either die or you pay it off. But like I said, getting back to where I'm at today I've learned through all my mistakes, and I'm so much better off today than I was 10 years ago.
That's awesome to hear. That's a great, kind of like great arc until you actually put all this wisdom. And I like what you said, focusing on your net worth, and yes. Now, just to kind of like, for people who may not understand what net worth is, like
Yes.
if you had to describe it very quickly, what would you say?
Yes. So your net worth is basically you take all of your assets and then you minus your liabilities. So let's say that okay, if you own a home and your home is worth $600,000, right? Of course, you just say, okay, my home is worth 600,000. You got a car. You look at your blue book. You value your car. Your car may be 20,000 or whatever. You have two cars. Maybe both cars are $40,000. So I'm just going to use these three things because they're the easiest things to understand. So now you're sitting on $640,000 worth of assets, but then you got car payments, you got a mortgage, right? So then you have to minus whatever that is, and that's where you come up with your net worth. So if your house is if you only owe like say $300,000 on your house, you only owe like $10,000 on each car, right? That's $320,000. You minus from the 640,000, so now your net worth is $320,000. The beautiful thing about that, though, is as a homeowner, your net worth is always going up. For the most part, your net worth is going up when you have a home. In fact, it's always going up. You just have to understand how the market works. And when you buy, you have to buy wise. You don't just, if you're barely getting into your home, that means you can't afford it. And that means that you're not going to be really amassing any net worth with that property. because that means you just got lucky and got in there. That's not how you want to purchase your home. But that's an example of what I mean by net worth.
Of course, thank you. Now I want to give a couple shout out. Shout out to Lovely Valence. Thank you for supporting the stream. DJ Flip, thank you for showing up and supporting the stream. And again, please like the video. It really helps the streams, help more people reach this. And again, Lindsay Joseph, thank you again. Thank you. Really appreciate your support. Um, now I so far I like what I hear. I like you the arc basically, and again I love what you're saying about focusing on your network. We're actually going to make an entire new podcast for that, where we're going to dive deeper about net worth and assets and liabilities and all that. So don't worry, and so make sure you subscribe if you want to see more on that. Now, Tony, questions for you. So basically, from the time you started, like from your 20s, the time you started earning money, saving money till now, what would you say is the biggest life lesson you've learned about wealth?
Ooh, I knew he was going to hit me on that, John Charles. And the funny thing is, I was just laughing inside because I was like, one of those old ESPN interviews where the guy starts crying and break it down. You're trying to make me do that, man. No, I'm just joking with you. But no, so I think the biggest life lesson I learned is when I was living in Hawaii. I bought a condominium in Hawaii, sight unseen. When I was living in Saudi Arabia, I had a friend of mine go check it out for me. I bought that condominium when the market was low. This was like in the bottom of 2000. I think I bought this 3-bedroom condominium, which I didn't really need at the time, for $120,000. And then I was living in Hawaii. I went through a divorce. Fortunately for me, the lady did not want anything to do with the profits from the sale of the condo. So I didn't want to stay in Hawaii. So I sold the condominium, and I sold it for almost $300,000. So I had well over $100,000 in monies after everything was said and done. But what I did was my lesson that I'm trying to learned here is I spent the money too fast. I was like you. I love cars. I love nice things. And I went ahead and I put down, like, say, $10,000 on the Porsche, which was a lease. I leased a Porsche Boxster S because I love fast cars. I bought a condominium in Seattle with some of the money. I put 20%, used 20% down. That was, I think, $40,000 on that. So right off the bat, $50,000 was already gone. Then I put $30,000 in the bank, a CD, called myself buying a CD or a money market or whatever. But the problem that I had was I ran into female issues where I was vulnerable after a divorce, and I was trying to impress. I always thought that I had to impress people, because this resorts back to what I was saying earlier about me growing up on female financing. As in a single parent home, I was never taught to consider things that men need to consider when it comes to managing your finances. I was always taught to spend that money on these so-called queens and this, that, the other. And all I was doing was just drying and emptying out my bank account. And it didn't even turn into a permanent relationship. So my lesson learned there was to always focus on yourself when you get your finances. If you're single, focus on yourself, focus on building your wealth. That way, if you ever come into that type of situation, you then your self-esteem is high, because now you see that you have a lot to bring to the table. And I think that's what bothered me. And that's what I learned from that is, if you build wealth, if you have your money right, you have wealth and you have value, and then you're not going to choose a female that is not going to help you with your value.
Exactly, and help you with your purpose, not necessarily
Yes.
here to take from you, but also contribute and help you grow your wealth and
Yes.
that empire. Man, a great knowledge right here. But I hear a pattern here. I hear a pattern. Like, I grew up in Haiti. As soon
Yes.
as I end up having money, we
Yes.
start blowing it up on things we like. You like nice things. I hear a pattern from you as well. That's one of the things you regret doing. Now, in your opinion, if you had to guess, why would you say, especially in the Black community, that whenever we get access to some money, we just want to like buy nice things? Like, what would you say with that if you had to guess?
Yes. Well, actually, I do have an answer for that. I was watching a video earlier. I forgot. I keep forgetting her name. I think it's Shaharada Ali. It's the sister on YouTube that talks to Black women about what they need to do with their lives and how they can contribute to the community. And she's really straight up forward and honest with women, which is what we need to do with our Black people. And here's the thing. People don't understand, but I like one thing that she said. She said that when our people have been oppressed like we have, it takes 17, and guys, I'm not messing around, 17 generations for us to get back on top, to get back to normal. 17 generations. It doesn't have to take the normal black family 17 generations, but as a people, as a collective, it takes us 17 generations, what she said. So you're
17 generation.
17 generations, brother. So
That's
if
a
you look
long time.
at 40 years a generation, 400, do the math, right? So you're from Haiti, and we got people from Brazil, which has the largest population of Africans outside of Africa, right? So, and the funny thing is as I'm talking to you, we could be related because I do family research, and I've come up with a lot of people from Haiti and Jamaica, Caribbean, because when the British came up and during the War of 1812, they freed a lot of enslaved people and they shipped them all over the place, Caribbean, North Canada, things like that. But what I'm getting at is this: as a people, we have the same experiences because we are still oppressed. We are still enslaved in the world, and we don't even know it. It's to the point to where now they don't even have to tell you you're a slave. You're already a slave. Now, those of us that have secured a life for our families, that are professional, that are making high income, that have accumulated net worth, we are better off. But we never got the 40 acres in the mill. We never got the 400 or 500 acres that a lot of the people that are white in America got. We never got that. So therefore, for people to say, "Oh yeah, you got to forget about and just move on," it is very difficult to move on when you have 17 generations to make up. Now, my wife and I, we've done pretty well. My wife is from Japan. Just for me meeting my wife from Japan has already my I was spiraling down as schedule. But after I met her and I got wiser, I started going back up. So now my generation, me and then my children will be much better off now than my previous generations.
And
So we have the same experiences.
And I love what you're saying that you've learned from your mistake. You have your wife as good that's helping you build that empire, and basically right from that, and you're already putting the stepping stones to help the next generation change the trend.
Yes.
I like that. I like hearing that, and we're gonna. I'm actually I want to talk a little bit more about that, but first, let me ask you this. Now, let's say you could, and before I ask you this, guys, for people watching in the chat, um, I want to hear your experience as well. I want to hear if what are the mistakes you have done so far when it comes to managing money. What have you learned from your mistakes? If you want to share that in the chat, we would love to hear it and interact with you guys as well. But Tony, if you could go back in your 20s, all right,
Mhm.
based on what you know right now in your life, and let's say I would bring you all this knowledge and insight back in your 20-year old body. um, I wish I was related with you because I would
We
I
still
would be
could be,
young
brother.
actually.
Yes.
But let's say you were in your 20s. I was your friend. What would you do differently, and how would you like guide me along the way with you?
Okay, so that would be easy for me. When I was in my 20s, I was always guiding younger brothers in the Air Force. I was always giving them advice. Like I would say, hey, get your degree, get your degree, get your degree. We were always traveling around. We have to we leave our bags packed all the time. They could call us in the middle of the night, hey, you got to get on the plane and go to some country that you never heard of. Do this and come back, right? But I always would tell brothers, hey, get your degree. My biggest advice to them is get educated. Do you know that I still have black men calling me up today, 30 years later, thanking me because their children have now gone to college and graduated because of the advice that I gave them. They went and got their degrees, and then their children are getting their degrees and having good families just because I gave them that advice. And a lot of them took that advice. I kind of, I was outranking them. So, I kind of threw that I rank on them a little bit,
Yeah.
but it really helped out. And then the reason why I was able to do that, and the reason why I do that, because I am a direct descendant of a Civil War veteran who escaped slavery and joined the Civil War. He walked 30 miles to join the Civil War. He fought in a lot of battles. And so that's in my system. That's in my DNA. That's my makeup. So he was always helping out his people. And as I'm looking at his picture here now that I hang up, he was always helping out, helping the slaves out. And I'm always helping people out. So yeah, I would tell you that in the 20s to get your education.
Understood. And yes, education, like, that's education is something that no one can take away from you, right? Eh,
Yes, but I'm sorry, John Charles, if I can interject on that. But I would tell people that if you had a choice between getting a student loan and an education and not, I would advise against getting a student loan. I would say you should take up a trade, go to a vocational school.
Yes, it's so funny you said that because right now, like, again, remember I told you when I was young, I wanted to make money, and I asked my mom, "Hey, what do I do to make money?" My mom was like,
Yes.
"Hey, you need to go to university, you know." Spent 3 years in college. I had a technician degree, so I could go and become a technician. The salary in Canada for that is between 35 and 50 Canadian a year
Mhm.
for that job. And then after I went to university for 4 years, so basically 7 years of studying. And I guess after university, the starting salary is kind of like 65 or 60 sometimes, and
Mhm.
it can go all the way to like 90, 100.
Mhm.
But like that's basically like what I started. But I have a friend. He's from Haiti. He didn't know what to do.
Mhm.
He didn't even actually speak French very well. He only spoke Creole.
Mhm.
But he actually went into a trade school. And he
Mhm.
went to a trade school, learned how to be a plumber, and he's making money. He's
Yes.
making money. The type of
Yes.
money he's making in terms of income, or I guess
Mhm.
now he started a business, so it's part of his business income. But
Mhm.
yeah, the type of money he's making is I haven't made this type of money as an engineer, so I
Mhm.
was like, wow, like you would. And it's because the millennials, they're actually a lot more of them are going to school and they're not learning trades. So
No.
now the baby boomers that are retiring, they're actually finding it very hard to pass these skills along. And then people, now there is a demand. There is a demand where there's a lot high demand of skills needed for trade skills like plumbing or even constructions, and
Yes.
then not enough people to do it. So that's why they're actually raising the salary and raising the rates. Plumbing is one of the most expensive thing you can pay on a house in Canada. So my friend is making a lot of money for that. So yes, I agree with this. I learn the skills and then use that. Don't stay away from student loan, especially in the United States. At least in Canada, in Quebec, just in Quebec. In case you didn't know, in Quebec, education is fairly cheap compared to the rest of North America. Uh,
Hmm.
yeah,
I
I'll
may
give you
send
an
my son to
example.
school there.
I'll give you an example. When I was
Yes.
in college, I paid $132 per semester. And 3 years
Wow.
after, I had a diploma that could allow me to find a technician job and become
Wow.
an electrical technician. $132 per semester in college. In university, the most expensive I paid was about 1600 a semester.
Wow. That's
Then
pretty
that
good.
includes books, that includes try like buying cards to take the subway and all that.
Mhm.
So yeah, Quebec in general, and especially if you're Canadian here and you're listening from another province, you're Canadian. Quebec belongs to you as well. Just come here, live 6 months, get an address in Quebec, and then you become Quebecer. And then you can
Wow.
enjoy. Yeah, you can enjoy our benefits here. Because if I go to Toronto,
Mhm.
University of Toronto is one of the most expensive in the country, and we're talking about like 15, like sometimes close to 20 per semester, depending on
Wow.
what you study. Like maybe on average it could be around 12, 13 Canadian dollars. So yes, many people they go to student debt, and by the time they get out, you come out with like 80,000, 100,000 in debt, and
Mhm.
that really helps you start life like right on the bottom side. And imagine most people are they learn like their concept of wealth is the first
Mhm.
thing they do is buy a house, right? So
Yes.
get a job.
Yes.
If they're not like me and they're starting buying cars, they're going they're going to buy a house. And in Toronto, houses are like 700, 800,000,
Yes.
even a million for just 3 bedroom, 4 bedroom
Mhm.
house. So it's crazy. Let me shout out to Cash Flow Hunter. Wealth engineering, les opportunités sont là ou quoi? Speaking French. How are you doing, sir? Thank you for
Enchanté.
showing. Oh, Sean, thank you for
Ça va, ça
showing
va bien.
some love and support. And again, make sure you like. And I want to hear from you guys. If you guys are watching again, let me know what have you learned from your past mistakes when it comes to managing your money, wealth. I want to hear your story. Share that in the comment section. So, Tony,
I was gonna ask you one more thing. Add the one thing about the education, Jean Claude. So here's the thing, Jean Charles. So
you could call me JC. You could call me
okay,
JC.
JC, I was thinking about that.
Yeah, let me
So
wait. Let me put it for you. Let me put it for you here, right there. I don't
okay,
know.
okay, there we go.
JC, the black
JC,
guy.
like, yes. Thank you, brother. Thank you. Blackness
No
never
worries, no
impressed
worries.
me. So here's the thing that I was gonna add on to what you were saying about education. Now, here's the thing. A lot, and this happens, I don't know if this is happening in Canada, the UK, or abroad, but I know in the United States, and I always focus on our women because they're very visible, because they're talked about more than any segment in our society. A lot of our women, and then when I mean by our women, I mean Black women, they have amassed a lot of student debt. But here's the problem that they're running into too. When they go to school, they don't they don't secure the proper what's the word I'm looking for? They don't study the right thing in school. They just a lot of them are just going to school. Oh, I just want to. Oh, I got my degree, girl. But when they come
Communication,
out, yeah, communication. They're getting educated in things that are not making any money whatsoever.
liberal art.
Liberal arts. I mean, what is this? What is that going to do for you, right? They're not getting the skilled jobs that's going to actually pay off those student loans. They're
Mhm.
amassing them, therefore they cannot buy a house, and they have master's degrees, and they're out there sweeping floors at McDonald's with a
Mhm.
master's degree. And here's another problem with that: it's not just them. The problem is that because we don't have enough Black businesses, we have to go out into the white world to get hired. Or I don't just want to use white, but any other ethnic group, they have to hire us, right? Because we don't have enough of us hiring each other. In other words, what I'm trying to say is this: for me as a Black male, I'm actually earning 30% less than the average male in the United States because I'm Black. But if I was to go to work for a company that's owned by Blacks, where I'm being interviewed by Blacks, male and female, and they will really recognize my skills more, then I would be getting paid what I really am supposed to be getting paid. That is the norm. That is the way life is. And that's why I'm saying it takes 17 generations for us to catch up. This is the problem that we're running into. But the big thing, too, with the education is we need to know before we start going to school, we need to have a plan. We need to know what it is that we are going to study, and we need to know what the end game is. So that's what I did when I went back to school for IT, because I got out of the Air Force. I had a business management degree. I was like, okay, great, I'm out. Where's my job? And I thought just had a briefcase with the suit, I'm making money. Making money how? Making money doing what? I got a job doing data entry. I was an administrative assistant, my first job out of the Air Force for the state of Washington. I thought I was good. Oh, great. I'm doing good. I'm sitting at a desk. But that is not the best thing to do. You need to know what kind of occupations are out there, and then you need to know what they pay. One last thing I want to bring up too, and I saw this on another podcast. A Black woman was asked, and I use, like I said, I bring up Black women a lot because they're very visible and they're talked about a lot. They were asked, "Oh, how much do you make?" And she said, "Well, I don't want to tell you how much I make, but I'm doing well." And she was a leasing agent at an apartment complex in Philadelphia. But she says, "Well, I'm doing well." But here's the problem that we're running into with our people. A lot of our people don't really know what doing well is. You only know what doing well is if you go to blackdemographics.com and you see what the income numbers are. And you
So
see
true.
that, for example, if you're making anywhere between 50,000, or actually, yes, 50,000 to $150,000 US, you are considered middle class. What spectrum of that, where you want to lie middle class on that, right? Where do you want to be on that level, right? After 150 to 200,000, you're considered upper middle class. Over 200,000, you're considered upper class. There's only 3% of the people in the country making over $200,000 a year. Only nine, I think almost 10% of people make over six figures a year in the United States. So they're not looking at the numbers, and they're unrealistic when they look at the numbers, and they think they're living well. And then they find out later on, no, you're not living well making $50,000 a year. You're not. Just because you bought a new car and you're making $50,000 a year, you're not, because you're not amassing wealth. And there's going to come a time when you have to retire, and you're going to find out that you have well over $2 million shortfall, especially if you fall in a demographic where 75% of the females never marry. These are the facts. This is what's happening in the United States. And it may be happening in Canada. I'm not sure.
Great points right there. Great points right there. Now, I want to bring it back more into kind of like the current state. Your well, and we're talking about wealth earlier. So I want to know what I wanted to know is you were saying that at 25 you started saving money, you started considering like, oh, thinking differently. Then at 30 you basically lost a lot of money with the experience that you have. I want to know basically when did you start kind of like moving it back? You were saying, you were mentioning about your wife, you meeting your
Yes.
wife, and so now what were the things that you were doing to kind of like help you change the trend of like that downward trend of losing money, go and building that poor portfolio basically into increasing it and changing and building that generational wealth for your family? So what was at that point, what were you doing to help you go through that phase?
Yes. So I was saving money in my 20s. I got out the Air Force. I worked first couple years, I was in the States. I went back to Japan to teach. So I was not really making money in Japan. I'd already spent the money that I saved up by the time I was 34 years old, because I had to go back to Japan to teach. And in Japan, you don't make money. You will not get rich there. It's mainly a working class, middle class country. After that, I went to Saudi Arabia, where I was making money. I was able to save up to buy a condo. But see, keep in mind what I'm saying here. I had to work to make money. I had to build that income up through work. I had no wealth building whatsoever during that time. It was all based on my ability to do a job. Okay. So fast forward, I'm at 39. I already bought the condo. By 43, I sold it. I had the money, but then at that time in my life, I blew the money that I made off the condominium because I didn't know what to do with money, because I was never really taught, and my experience of growing up showed me that I had to spend money on females. What the change around was is after I got married to my wife. I married my wife when I was 45. My wife was a young lady at 23 when I married her. She still is a young lady, obviously. But I married her, and then I realized that she came from a good family, and her family was a solid middle class family in Japan, but she was a very simple woman. She didn't need to buy this $7,000 Gucci bag and hair pieces and all this other stuff. She was like, look, we need to focus on building our family wealth. That was the first time I got the bug in my ear. I actually learned how to manage a family from her father, because I didn't have that experience taught to me growing up. So I would say my son was born when I was 50. So right around 50 years old, that's when I really got on the bandwagon of, okay, I need to start generating some wealth here, and not just by work. I need to start doing other things like investing. I need to buy a home. I need to make sure that the money is going right. I need to make sure that my house is appreciating. Fast forward to now, like I said, my life was totally different 9 years ago. But fast forward to now, I'm so much better because I started thinking about, how do I make unearned income? How do I get off what I call this 50-50 plan? The 50-50 plan is 50 years, 50 hours a week. How do I get off of that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Great point right here. Now, this is a question I ask all my guests. So, and again, I guess you're my first guest. So,
Yes.
but Tony, what are you doing right now to engineer your wealth?
Yes. Yes. So what I'm doing right now is this, and I'm also engineering the wealth for my children too.
Wow.
So I invest in the stock market. I have my retirement accounts that I invest in. So they're all active. I'm active in my stock account, because I can just put money in there anytime I want. I can do it with my retirement account too. But retirement, you're limited to, in the U.S., if you're over 50, you're limited to $7,000 a year. If you're under 50, it's 5,000, right? But that's okay, because you get a few different retirement accounts. Right now, I have like 4 different retirement accounts. So I make sure that those monies are doing well. Here's what I did. This is the biggest thing I did so far. This past July, because I have a Roth IRA too that I started with my job I'm at, and that's amassing wealth. But I'm not able to manage that portfolio like I want. And I had a 401k from my old company that I just had sitting there. What I did this July is I turned that 401k into an individual retirement account. When you turn it into an individual retirement account, then you're able to manage it yourself. And that's what I wanted to do. And what I did was I buy index funds and exchange traded funds for especially for my retirement accounts. I don't buy individual stocks for those because an individual stock, if it has a bad day, it's going down. If it has a good day, it's going up, but it can also go down, and it really impacts you. But if you have an exchange traded fund or an index fund which is running off the S&P 500, if a few companies go down, so be it. You're still making money. And another thing that I focus on too, especially with my stock accounts and my retirement accounts, I focus on dividend income. Yes, dividend income is the biggest thing that you can ever do in your life with your stocks. A lot of people get caught up in the GameStop and the theater thing out there. That one of the movie theaters was going up. Cinema, I forgot what that company was that run a lot of theaters, but they had a spike in the beginning of the year, right? But then a lot of people lost a lot of money. Don't focus on market value. Focus on what they pay out dividend wise. And I'll give you an example. I bought a company that I found out about. My friend that got in this portfolio from Robinhood. I'm not with Robinhood. He got this for free. Robinhood, they give you a complimentary stock. Well, I found out that this stock was paying 6 cents a month. Most stocks pay, or ETFs funds pay every quarter. This one was paying every month. So what I did was I looked and I was talking to my friend on the phone. He's what I call a money buddy, which I'll tell you in a minute. You need to get a money buddy. But here we are talking about it. And he said, yeah, I got the stock. They gave me 50 shares. He said, what? What's this? And I said, what? 6 cents. So I did the math. And I told him, if you have 50 shares, every month you're getting $3 off that, right? And he was like, oh, really? I said, yes. So what I did was I started buying more of those shares every month. Now I have almost 1,200 shares of that stock. Do the math, right? The market value is doing well, but I'm not caring about the market value because it goes up and down. I'm caring about the dividends. So everything I own, they kick out dividends, some every quarter, some every month. What happens is this. If you get the ones that are kicking out every quarter, make sure that you get the ones that get it to where every single month you're getting dividends, even from those quarters. So like some will cut you a check in March. Some will cut you a check in April, see, on their 3-month quarter. Some of their quarters end in May, some of them end in June. So you want to get it to where every single month you are getting dividends. And what you do is you reinvest those dividends. Thank you, lovely balance. That was AMC. You reinvest those dividends back into your portfolio. And do you know, and they don't tell you this, that each one of those companies will give you, especially the stocks, individual stock will give you 5%. So let's say that the stock is trading at $8 on the ex dividend date. When it goes time, because they give you an ex dividend date, they say if you own the stock on this date, we will pay you that stock, pay those dividends based on what the market was that day. If you have that stock, they will give you a 5% discount. So if it's at $8 that day, right? And we all know that 5% is cheaper, 5% lower on the price, is you're going to get more shares. You're going to be able to reinvest more shares into that stock than the regular person, because they're just taking the money out and then they're buying that dividend back later or buying the stock back later. You see what I'm saying? So you get your dividends, you get them to reinvest in your stocks all the time, and then they start compounding and you turn your head. You're like, oh my God, my income is up this high. So that's what I do.
I
That's a big way to do it.
Man, I'm so happy to hear you say that because again, we'll talk more on more podcasts, and I'll share more about my story on more podcasts. But one thing, I kind of I had a mentor, and then based on that mentor, I had a small time with him. I didn't have a lot of time with my mentors. It was a paid mentorship, so I didn't have much money.
Yes.
So couldn't spend a lot of time, right? But based on that interaction that I had, there was a lot of learning that I did, but I would never be able to do this amount of learning if I did not spend time with this mentor. And I'm gonna make another podcast on why is it important to have a mentor, and especially when it comes to building wealth financially and all that. But one thing I figured out on my own, I did figure it out on my own, is there is so many different ways you can day trade. You can, as you said, managing your account on your own. And I kind of started with that and did options for a while. But one of the things I figured out on my own is, man, if you really want to build wealth, if you want to retire early, if you really want to earn back your time, your freedom, you got to work on buying. And I invented, I guess, my own word for it. I was watching a lot of YouTube videos. I was watching videos from Robert Kiyosaki. So him is a cash flow investor. He thinks about the cash flow, and cash flow simply means whenever you pay all of the expenses back in a business, if there is any money left in your pocket, then that's the cash flow, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
if you have a mortgage and a kind of like duplex or the triplex that you're renting, mortgage is 2,000 a month. In rent, you get 2,300 a month. Then that extra money that is left is $300 a month. Then that's your cash flow. Now the beauty and when you buy stocks, and you can do the same thing in cryptocurrencies as well, and I'm 100% doing that right now in cryptocurrencies, is the beauty is you can buy dividend paying stocks or cryptos that are paying you on a daily basis. Not in the cryptocurrencies, they're not doing it on per quarter, they're not doing it. I get
Mm,
cryptos that pays me per hour. I have
mm,
another one that pays me per day, like
mm,
1% per day. So it's a beautiful thing to do when you buy assets that are paying you. So again, Robert Kiyosaki is a cash flow investor, meaning he likes to have the pocket on his money now. And
mm.
then I was looking a lot from learning from the older guy, the guy that everyone knows about, Warren
Warren
Buffett.
Buffett. Yes.
Yes, I
Yes.
was learning from him as well. And he's a value investor. He likes to
Yes.
buy things when they're cheap, wait for them to appreciate over time, and then collect his money at the end. So I figured, hey, why not do both? Why not
Mm,
buy value when they're very low? You understand how to read the value, how to see it before everyone else, and they're paying you dividend right now. They're paying you rewards right now. So you're making money now, and then you're making money in the future, and you can even pass it down as it depreciate values to your generation. We just talked about that on a previous podcast, but I'm going
yes.
to be talking a lot about that. So yeah, thank you for mentioning this. And again, I want to give a shout out to Cash Flow Hunter. I actually like your name, sir, Cash Flow Hunter.
Castle Hunter. Yes. Yes.
There are enough stocks with monthly dividend in Canada. No excuse for us. Absolutely no excuse for us. There is plenty of stocks. And if you're in Canada, I want to recommend and give a shout out to the group, Black Traders Club. Try to join them. I'm a member there. I've been a member for a year. Really enjoyed this club. There's a lot of people sharing opportunity out there. So yeah, check it out. And again, join our Discord as well. We can have discussions and share opportunity as well. The link will be in the description below. So again, shout out to you, sir, Cashflow Hunter, and thank you for your support. Now, Tony, and this is kind of like a question I want you to go and all that, and I'm also going to chime in on that as well. But I hear your story. I understand your and I like the art. You learn in your 20s. You started understanding even the concept of saving money. You made some money in your investing, but based on your education and what you had, and you didn't have a mentor to really guide you and show you how to make lose how to invest your money, you end up losing a lot of that money, and then you had to like learn. And I can understand what you're going through, because having make being at this high in your life, and then
Yes.
after going in such a low emotionally, that has to take a toll. And then for you to come up and say, you know what, I gotta do something about it, and then start taking the steps. Congratulations on that. And now you're reaping the rewards
Yes.
of your hard work, and especially of going through that mental states. I as a we got to talk about that aspect as well. I
Yes.
understand that, but let me ask you this, Tony.
Mm,
Based on your life experience so far, and we've covered it in this podcast.
mhm.
If you've just got here, you can check it back and replay it. Tony shared a lot of insights and what he's learned from his life so far. But Tony, based on your life experience so far, in your opinion, why is it important to build wealth, increase your net worth, and working in your retirement plan only? Like, basically, what I've got from your story is you started working hard and really on it by after you met your wife. You started working on it, and that's basically almost in your 50s, right? Now
Yes.
imagine you were doing that early. Like, what would be the importance of doing that right now? Like, what would you chime on that, Tony?
Yes. Oh, thank you so much, JC, for that question. So here's the thing, and I'm all about generational wealth. And here's why. I mean, being a Black American in the United States, sitting as a group, our people, Black Americans, only hold one half. Guys, let me say this again: one half of 1% of the wealth of the richest nation in the world. This is the same amount of wealth that we held after slavery, after we were in 1865, 66. It went up to 1% when we had the Tulsa Wall Street. It was burned down by racists. Everything just tore apart after that. We went down. We were never able to build it back up. Now we're only sitting on 1% and we're probably losing more of that as I speak. Here's the reason why generational wealth matters. It's because when you have generational wealth, you can pass things down to your next generation. And I give you an example. The average, I think I was reading this the other day, it's like $180,000 is the average that a white family will receive in inheritance. And there's a lot of baby boomers that are retiring right now that are passing that wealth down to their offspring. What that does is this: that gives them enough to put a down payment down on a house, which means they're going to be building wealth through that property. That gives them enough to pay cash for their education, either themselves or through their children, or to put it in the trust fund for their children. Generational wealth is so important because when you turn your head, you see these movies out there, right? You see them, they're traveling in the Tuscany and falling in love with these long lost love thing. There's a movie out there that's famous for that. But nobody's talking about going to work. Why? Because when they lose their jobs, they don't have to go to work right away. They can say, oh, that's okay. I lost my job, or I'm going to quit. I think I'm going to go to Italy for about a year. And then when I get back, I'll work on my house project. And as soon as they get back, they already get a job offer. But if you have not built any generational wealth, as soon as you lose your job, you have to find another job to keep that wheel going. This is why we always have to invest. This is why we always have to build it. This is why we always have to get off of that wagon and keep putting our money to where we're going to be getting unearned income. That way we have less dependence on a job. This is why generational wealth is so important. And one more thing on that note. When you have generational wealth, this is the biggest thing. It comes into play when we're looking at politics and looking at how your country runs their policy. You saw the thing, and I know this, brother, you saw it. I know JC saw this down in the border where they were beating on the Haitian people. They were black people, right? They beat black people all over the world, and nobody says nothing about it because blacks only sitting on one half or 1% of the wealth in the richest nation in the world. When you build generational wealth, you can select candidates that run your country. In our country, whites can select the Democrat and the Republican. So they basically looking at the elections are like, well, let's see. Biden's running for president. Trump's running. I don't really care who wins. In other words, what I'm saying is they may care, but it's not going to affect their life. They're not going to lose food off their table. They're not going to lose an opportunity to get a good paying job. If whoever gets elected, they don't care. They have generational wealth. And they are fronting both candidates anyway. Your cousin may be fronting Trump. Your other cousin may be fronting Biden. You may be fronting them both. But no matter what, you're still going to come out on top. Black people in our country, because we don't have enough wealth, because we have not built any generational wealth, we don't have the power. We only vote to hope because we don't have the power to choose. Therefore, Chinese can go over to Africa and do whatever they want, and nobody says nothing about it. Guys on horses can beat Haitians on the border, and nobody cares about it because we don't have the wealth to challenge that.
Mm, mm. Powerful, powerful, powerful. Thank you for answering that question. Now, I was actually thinking about this question as well, and I wanted to chime in on that as well, because that's basically the title of the podcast. Why is it important to build generational wealth? Why should you care about building generational wealth? Now, if you start early, why should you even dedicate your life to generational wealth? Now, if you're lucky and you're listening to this podcast, you can basically use that as a way to kind of like trigger, change your perspective, your mindset, and start working on it. Maybe around like by the time you're 50 years old, you can exactly be free of your time. You don't need to work on a job anymore. Then you can use your time to work on on like your passion, your purpose. And I want to try to answer this question as well. And again, you can let me know what you think about it later. But just to give you an idea, right? So I was thinking about it, and I came up with three reasons why it is important to build
Mhm.
generational wealth. So,
Yes.
the first one, if I could classify it, I would say purpose.
Mhm.
Now, I think we are here on this earth for two reasons, right? I'm pretty sure we are here for many reasons, but I'll just class for the sake of this example. Let's just say that we're here for two reasons. First, I think we are here to work on our selfish desires. Let's keep it a buck here. A lot of things that we want to do, it's our thoughts, it's our desires. We want to go to school to be better for ourselves and our family. There's a lot of our in the way of thinking. And I think we're here to work for a selfish desire. And the second is I think we're here to work for the community. Even if you're not necessarily passionate about the foundation, for example, when you go to work, you're working on a product, you're working on a service that is for the population, for the benefit of the population. So the collective is actually going to gain from your work as well. So two reasons: we're here for our selfish desire and for the community or the population or the world, etc. And I think when your selfish desire aligned with your work in the community, then at that moment you find your purpose.
Yes. Yes.
I'll repeat that again. When your selfish desire aligned with your work in the community, then at that moment you have found your purpose.
Yes.
Now, increasing your wealth, retiring early, building generational wealth. And there is this misconception about generational wealth. You have to have a lot of money, 10 millions, 20 millions, 100 millions. No, no, no. It simply means you have enough assets that you can actually pass it down. It could be just one asset. It could be just a
Yes.
house that is finished paid. It could be a
Yes.
house. It could be a car that you don't, there is no debt on it. And then
Yes.
at that point, it's worth something, right? So
Mhm.
it's not necessarily a lot of money, but necessarily like if you accumulate assets in your lifetime and you can pass it down and it can help the other generation in any ways possible. As you mentioned, and we're going to get into that, you were saying that white people get on average about 80,000. That's a lot of money to help you start going, right?
Yes.
But
About 180,000 average. Yes. Passed down.
wow. Wow. So again, increasing your wealth, retiring early, building your generational wealth is the only way I know that is the best way to do these two things efficiently, meaning working in your selfish desires and working for the community as well. It's the best way to have the time and the freedom to work on your purpose. Right. Let me give you an example. Let's say you love to travel, or you may have a hobby like sports. Like I used to play basketball back in the days, but now I'm passing my prime, so my back, my knee. So maybe now I would love to go see my favorite team. Shout out to Lamelo Ball and the Charlottes. So I would love to see my favorite team play basketball, and I can't get courtside, but maybe I can go on a nosebleed. But at least I would. That's one of my passions, right? I would love to see. I have one of my best friends. He loves racing, but however racing is it's very expensive, right? So
Yes.
if and these could be your selfish reasons as well, and maybe some of you in the chat, but if you're focused on your hobby but you don't have wealth, you don't have that cushion, that coffee, that extra money, then it cuts on the money you can help pass down to your family and help support your community. All right,
Yes.
because
Yes.
if you focus on your selfish desires, and then it takes almost all your the little money you had left, then you don't have enough to really support the community. And that helps me get to the second reason why I think it's important to build generation wealth. It's legacy, and you brought that up too, Tony.
Mhm.
I think it's a waste of life if you work very hard, you accumulate assets, and you have no one to give it to. Like it's
Yes.
one of the things, and sometimes I hear stories where people they're single, and then they live their entire life like that, and then they had basically or maybe some of their families, the close ones, or they're passed away, and then they have a lot of assets and they give it all into a foundation. I mean, it's good for the foundation, it's good for the people that will benefit from it, but maybe you can understand the way I think about it. Like
Yes.
we cannot live forever, right? I know you're
No.
young, Tony. You look young.
No.
You
We
look like
cannot
you
live.
may
But
live
no.
forever, but
Yes. We cannot.
we cannot live forever. But maybe our last name can live forever.
Yes.
If we have kids and our kids have kids, we'll have generation of our genes, of our last names, and it will be as if we would be immortal.
Yes.
Again, that's the
Yes.
closest we can get to immortality. Now,
Yes.
if all of your generation are poor, and that goes back to what you were saying, Tony, no one really taught you in your family how to build wealth, how to save money, how to manage your money. And it doesn't necessarily how to multiply money. All they had to do is teach you how to manage it and save it and keep it. And that alone could have gone a long way. But you had
Yes.
no one to really taught you teach you that. I had no one to teach me that. And I grew up in a fairly middle class family. I would say almost at the upper middle class family in Haiti. In Haiti, not in Canada. In Canada, I would be purely average. But yes, and I didn't had my parents were investors. They were real estate investors. And
Mhm.
even them, the only thing they were telling me is go to school, get a job. It's much easier that way to get a safer paycheck coming in versus risking all your income in an investment and not be able to sell it. That's how they were
Mhm.
living. So they were traumatized by that, right? But no
Mhm.
one was really telling me about. I was thinking about that,
Mhm.
and anyway, I'll ask you later. But basically, if you all your generations are poor, then your last name after, and you can't really do anything prior in the past, right? You can't really change anything in the past, but
No.
maybe you can influence what's going on in the future, and maybe it starts with you. And
Yes.
the mindset that changed that is the mindset to want to do something about the pattern, the lack of financial literacy that's been happening, and then do something about it so that you can start building your wealth, buying dividends paying stocks, for example, buying assets that are getting in value, and and gain from that. So
Mhm.
basically, when when you do that, what I want to say is when all your generation are poor, your last name is maybe living forever, but you have no influence. And you mentioned that in Asian, we can't really do anything about it. We have the Trump president insulting us worldwide, and we can't really say anything back because we're not building anything anymore. We're not doing anything anymore in the world. We have no wealth. We're depending on everyone else whenever there is a rain or like the earthquake or something. So we have no influence. So your name has no impact on society, no weight to influence things in the
Mhm.
community. So that's again, the more people that are thinking about it, building generational wealth, passing it down to your legacy, not only have not only you have built wealth to live comfortably for yourself, right? It
Mhm.
improves your own financial life. Then you can retire early, use of some of that money to enjoy your retirement, and leave the rest for your legacy. But
Mhm.
also, and again, what you were saying, it's a great foundation that
Mhm.
your legacy can use as a stepping stone to build more wealth and gain more influence to change things for the better, right?
Yes.
So over time, over three, four, five, six generation, if someone started and early on, they started to have that stepping stone that the other generation can use.
Yes.
It's going to be increasing and help improving. And if a lot of family are doing that, then it's definitely can help. Now, again, now the third thing I wanted to mention is
Mhm.
community. Third
Yes.
reason why it is important to
Mhm.
build generation wealth is for your community. It takes money and influence to change things, and many things in this world needs to be changed. Right?
Yes.
When
Mhm.
you are wealthy, when you have more money than you need, some of that extra money can go to fund your favorite cases, like favorite cause.
Yes.
Maybe you care about abused children. Maybe
Mhm.
you care about mental health.
Yes.
Maybe you care about homelessness. Me personally, that's something I care about because for some reason I feel in another life I was homeless and I'm scared of that. So I
Mhm.
I, I really gravitate towards that. But
Mhm.
also, maybe you are like me in the black community,
Mhm.
and as a black man, one thing that I really care about is I want to encourage the black community to build businesses, increase their wealth, have a certain level of autonomy,
Mm-hmm.
building hospital, schools, groceries, and own some kind of device for communication, our own communication network, right? So that no one else can touch and interfere with that. Let me give you
Yes.
an example very quick, Tony.
Mm-hmm.
Like, look at every big city as China. Like every big city has a Chinatown.
Yes.
Where I live, like there's a Chinatown about 5 minutes walking away from me right now, and every big city I know has a Chinatown. Even
Yes.
outside of the mainland, they have created their own country within the city.
Yes.
They can go and I believe the black community worldwide, if they would think. They would need to think that way if they really want things to change. And imagine we had like a freaking villa or
Yes.
something like that, where we actually show up the culture
Mm-hmm.
and the local culture, put that all into like a kind of like a neighborhood, a city, call it African city worldwide. That I think that will definitely encourage a lot of family to start building world and help building that
Mm-hmm.
and slowly. But anyway, that's my wishful thinking. But that's a vision I wanted to share with you. But based on, and I wanted to also dive deep. And I'm sorry, I know I'm talking a lot, but I'm going to
No,
leave it
no,
to
you're
you.
good. You're good. Yeah.
I'm going to leave it to you as well. But I wanted to mention this, and we're talking about
Mm-hmm.
why it is important to build generational wealth. I really wanted to bring this to the conversation as well. And again, guys, let me know in the chat, type a
Mm-hmm.
comment, give the likes, support the channels. But here's what I've observed. I think white people, they are good
Mm-hmm.
at taking $1 and turn it into $10.
Mm-hmm.
They invest early, they're
Mm-hmm.
financially literate
Mm-hmm.
to some degree, right? I grew up in Haiti, and I did not even hear the word share and options,
Mm-hmm.
like share stocks, options, bond, until like I was 19 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Until I was 19 years old, that's the first time I've heard the word stocks, bonds, shares. Like, let me ask you this, Tony. Like,
Mm-hmm.
how about you in when you were a kid? Like, when did you hear the word share, stocks? Do you recall that?
The only time I ever heard that was playing the game of Monopoly,
Wow,
and
cool.
that was just basically property. And I think that was probably my first real taste of, oh, property has money attached to it.
Wow.
And then you get that thing on the little community chance or the community chest or the chance card that says you just got stocks. That's when I first heard of it.
Wow.
But I
And
never.
do you remember around what age, like wage bracket was it?
I was probably about to say 9 or 10 years old.
Oh, good, good.
Yes.
That's good. Me, honestly, the first time I even go, there was no monopoly at in
Yeah.
Haiti. First
Yes.
time I heard about it was I was 19 years old, man. I remember that day. It was a teacher who kind of like wanted. It was a chemical
Mhm.
teacher. Then he realized that, hey, these guys needs to understand why it's important to save for retirement. So he was like, hey,
Yes.
this is what old people do. They invest in stocks, and then he was showing us how it works. And I was like, oh, okay, that's good. Now, and in my mind is okay. When I'm old, that's what I'm gonna do too.
Yes. Yes.
That's the logic I got. Like now I have no money, but when I'm old, okay, that's what I'll do.
Yes.
But again, like white people in general, they find ways to pass down something to their legacy. As you mentioned, Tony, I'm
Yes.
surprised to hear this number. I thought it was much less, but that's a big number. It's
No.
180.
Yes. And the reason why the thing about them passing it down. Keep in mind now, when we were freed in the United States, we were given nothing. We were given no guns, no money, nothing. They just said, "Okay, you're free, go." Generational wealth, there was none.
Mm,
You see what I'm saying? But
of course.
then you're looking at this guy, he's got thousands of acres. These guys own parts of San Diego, parts of Los Angeles, parts of these big cities that they're still getting money on the day. They build a freeway through this land. Imagine your parents own the major Highway 1 in Canada. They own land along that route, right?
Mm,
And then the government comes and says, hey, we're going to buy this. You say, no, why don't you lease it from us? You're rich for generations. You see what I'm saying? These people work this way. And another thing I want to say while I'm on this too is JC, white people in my country, the really rich ones, the ones that have accumulated wealth through either by their ancestors taking that land or getting it for free or getting staked or whatever the case may be. Because George Washington and them, they got free like thousands, 100,000 acres of land for free. Washington, Jefferson, these guys, right? Okay. They don't talk about their wealth. So you know how you looked at this pandemic we just had, we still got where, all these people are laid off and the unemployment rate is this. Well, you're thinking, aren't there more people that should be worried about? No, because those people are living on unearned income. And they never want people to talk about it because they don't want people digging into their mess. That's why a lot of them don't like Biden, because he's trying to change the capital gains on them. So the really, and what you're saying about they can turn money into anything, those are mostly people of Jewish descent. In our country, the Jews are really good with the money
I was gonna get into that.
because they didn't get inherited all this free land.
Mm.
They quietly built up their empire through generational wealth. They are the best example of generating wealth, of building generational wealth, are Jewish. The Jewish people are the best example of that.
I agree with you. I was actually just getting to that. But honestly, based on my own observation, that's what I noticed. Like I noticed, like
Yes.
if I had to give a number from it, I would say white people in general, they're good at turning $1 into $10 based on what they learn,
Yes.
what do they find and how early they start, all that. Now, Jewish people, if I had to put a number in comparison to white people, I would say, and I know a lot of people don't really necessarily want to talk about it, but me, I'm in my channel, we're gonna talk about it. We're talking about wealth. They're definitely influential when it comes to wealth.
Yes.
I think in my own observation is for Jewish people, they're good at taking $1 and turn it into $100.
Yes.
That's what I think they are. And
Yes.
and the way they do that, it's very interesting the way they do that. It's because they have their entire lifestyle mixed with the community.
Yes.
Everyone's purpose is the welfare of the community. So,
Yes.
so when a Jewish person spends money on a Jewish business, and they always
Yes.
buy local, they always buy within their community,
Yes.
although that money is gone from his pocket, he's still working.
Circulating in the community.
The money is still working for him or her.
Yes.
Why? Because the whole community is behind this person. So,
Yes.
in a way, that money goes to the community, which in terms goes back to this person, and as a form of a service for
Yes.
free or
Yes.
a discounted service or
Yes.
product. So that way, you save a lot of money
Yes.
and you
Yes.
keep more of that money, which in turn you could multiply by investing.
Yes.
And that's how they really build their wealth. And they did it in 2 generations.
Yeah, they did it in 2 generations. And the thing is, compared to the average black in America, the money only stays in the community 6 hours.
Oof.
It's only 6 hours, and then it's already out, and you don't see it. Because there's no black businesses. If there are black businesses, there's what? When I was growing up I grew up in Philadelphia. Every corner we had a bar, because Vietnam vets would come back and they get these business loans, and what they do, they open up places that they frequented in Vietnam, a bar. There was no bakery, there was no coffee shop, there was no nice grocery store which full of healthy food. There was a bar or an old local grocery with expired food.
Mm.
So
6 hours.
that's not
That
6 hours.
Wow, 6 hours. And again, like if you once you understand the process, 2 generation, imagine you're saying that we would take 17 generation from us to actually do something about it before we
Yes.
can actually build some sort of level of wealth, and that is comparable to where the other community have reached right now. Now,
But JC, you just answered the question on how to do it, though. Did you know you just answered that? And that's how I did it. What I did was I look at the numbers. In America, the average household income is $67,000 a year. Do you know who the highest household income belongs to? What segment? Indians from from India. They
wow,
are averaging $123,000 per household. Yes. So what I did when I was still in sales, I looked at the Indian population for my income prowess. So in other words, where my income goes, and I look at Jews for my net worth building. So I use the Jewish population to educate my children on how to gain wealth like they did in 2 generations. So we got to look outside of our comfort zone and look at other ethnic groups and how they mastered the game.
of course.
That's
So,
what we have to do. If you want to get wealth, look at the Jews. If you want to make your good income, look at the Indians. They're the ones that's getting paid all that income, or
so
the
should
highest anyway.
Now, is that how you got inspired to do IT or?
Yes, that's how I got inspired to do IT because I was looking in my head. See, keep in mind now, when I came out the Air Force, I didn't know how many occupations were. I didn't know what was what. I just thought, okay, I got my business degree. Where's my job? That's what I was like, okay, where's jobs? How come they're not raining on me? Right. But I had to learn that process. I had to learn what these people did. And what really helped me out was when I went to sales and I started collecting credit applications and I started seeing incomes and I started noticing that the Indian was making most of the money.
Mm,
The next one in line is the Filipino. The next one, you got Chinese up there making good money too.
yes.
So people got to look at these demographics and say, okay, what are they doing? What are they doing? And then do the same thing with your children. Get them to
Mm,
do the same, and they're going to end up in the same spot. I know for me, I actually am doing better than most Indians in this country.
mm.
Yes,
Good to hear. Good to hear. And you learn from them too, from a kind of like a
yes,
distance. That's great. Now,
yes,
I want to let's go back because we were talking about the white people. We're talking about the Jewish community and how they do manage their wealth. But if we're basically talking about black people and
yes,
what we've been doing, basically, in my observation, I think that we've been taking $1 and instead of multiplying it to 10 to 100, we've been
yes,
actually turning it into $10 worth of debt.
yes.
And I'm being
Because
generous when I say 10.
yes, we spend the problem with black people, and as we're growing up, and you know you're the same. We're in this poor. No matter where you're from, we're all the same. We learn how to spend money. We didn't learn how to generate income and to make that income and to make it grow. We just learned how to spend, 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 spend. We didn't get taught how to build or nothing. And here's the thing that a lot of blacks ignore. And I know you got this in Canada, and I know you got this in Haiti, but a lot of blacks ignore what we call the black tax. Okay, what the black tax is this. You know where I'm going to this with
Oh, I
JC.
know what you mean.
The black tax is like, hey, your family member needs some money. That's you don't expect to spend that. Oh, guess what? Mama need money. Oh, I gotta send mama money. Or cousin need money. Hey, you know your cousin Ben just died, or Uncle so and so just died. And now you gotta spend money for a funeral, or you gotta spend money for somebody's car who broke down, or you see the little nephew that you like that likes you to always call you Uncle JC. Oh, hey, you know it's his birthday. Now you got to give him extra money for this, that, the other. When what you should be doing is avoiding the black tax. We cannot afford to take care of other family members. Black people, we are barely really making it. Most of us are a job loss away from losing everything. That is why we need to build that generational wealth. You can lose your house, your cars, all your possessions if you lose your job. That is the danger. And that is why net worth is so much more important than income. Because you could be a
Wow,
UPS
we
driver.
are one job away from losing everything. One job loss away from losing everything. This is one of the most powerful thing I've heard in this podcast today, man. Because it's so true, and I've
Yes.
gone through it. I've gone through it 3 times. I've
Yes.
been imagine I went to school, spent 7 years, at least. Thank God I didn't had to get a lot of debt when I got out of school. But
Yes.
imagine also that I was in another city and where I would have like 50,000, 80,000, close to 100,000 in debt on top of those 7 years. And then when I got out of the market, I got into the market to work. I did a job within a year and a half, got laid off.
Yes.
What's going on? What's going on? Like I did another job, like 2 years laid off again. Like wow, like within 5 years, I worked two jobs and I got laid off. And I'm like, at this point, I can even do the 40 or 50 50 50 rule where I think I have
Yes.
one job and stay the entire my life and get one paycheck, be comfortable. I can't do that anymore because
No.
I'm getting laid off. So I had to really think about a plan of basically how do I maintain my life and not lose everything after job loss because it's a pattern now. It's a
Yes.
pattern that I'm getting lost. I mean, there is a reason for that, but in terms of the black people in general, we're very far, far, far behind the rest of the world when it comes to wealth. There is 400 years worth of reasons why
Yes.
this is the case, but at the bottom line is today, this is the reality. Now, I think if every family from every race should focus on passing down an asset
Yes.
and wealth to their legacy.
Yes.
But for us black people, it is almost mandatory.
Yes.
Because if we don't do that, we might go extinct.
Yes. And I always say that we as Black people are facing extinction if we do
Maybe
not build
all
wealth.
the cops, maybe the cops will shoot us down to extinction.
Yes.
Who
Because
knows?
you know why? Cops don't shoot demographics that have built wealth. You don't see the Asian getting shot up. You don't see other demographics getting shot up. Why? Because they have wealth. They pick up a phone, they make a phone call, they ask this guy, hey, why did this cop shoot my son? Next thing that cop's in jail.
Exactly. They
We
have
don't have
built
the
up
power.
as well, but with wealth comes influence, right?
Yes.
And then that's what they have. So I believe if more Black families started thinking about increasing their net worth, just like you're mentioning, so much more important than paid income, building their wealth, and thinking about retirement early. Because when you think about retiring early, it forces you to start looking into investment and how it's going to cover your living expenses. So
Yes.
that's how, if you already having that mindset, then you're gonna look at the stock market, and then you're gonna be like, you know what, dividends makes more sense for me because I want to retire early, right?
Yes.
So that's the importance of doing all that. And again, like maybe if more families were thinking that way, then
Yes.
maybe they can not only help fund the autonomy of the community, but we can also have the time to help build it. We can build the influence where we can influence what affects the community as a whole, just like you were
Yes.
mentioning earlier. We can build that generational wealth use that as a stepping stone so that other next generation can use that and increase their influence and increase their leverage in society and achieve greater things than we could have achieved. It starts from someone. There is a pattern of poor behaviors that are passing down from generation to generation in our community, and it needs to start somewhere. Why not with you? So, and with that said, I'm gonna let you chime in on that. But I want to give a shout out, a special shout out to Yvonne T. Thank you, shout out Wealth.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Monty.
Yvonne T. This guy is a
Thank
great
you, Monty.
friend. I actually had COVID, and right after I had COVID, he called me, made sure everything was okay. So shout out to you, sir. Thank you for your support. Please like the button and share this stream as well. Help the channel grow. We're trying to reach 1,000 subscribers, so please help us out. Try to share the videos, having more people to listen to this. Why it is important to build generational wealth. It's something that we don't speak enough about in the Black
Yes.
community, and we don't speak enough about in general. Even when you go to school, they're not teaching us about money. They're teaching us how to work for someone else to get paid
To
and
help
work
somebody else's wealth. Sorry. Yes.
exactly to help somebody else get wealthy. That's what we're being taught at school. They're not teaching us how to take control of our finances, just like you took control of your own financial account and start managing it yourself. I believe no one cares more about your money more than yourself. All right.
Yes.
So not a bank, not a financial advisor, you. You can learn from this. It's very simple principle. We're
Mhm.
talking about you don't even have to go complex. You buy on assets that can gain value over time and it can
Yes.
pay you today. Cash flow value investing. You can do that with dividends. You can do that with stocks and cryptos and getting rewards. So at the end of the day, that's the way we need to start thinking about it. Again, shout out to you, well, but I'm going to pass it down to you, Tony. I know I talk a lot about the Black
No, no, you're
community,
fine,
but
JC.
in general, that's what I think. I think that why is it important to build generational wealth? Again, legacy, we talked about it, community, and also having the time and freedom to actually start doing things that you're passionate about, your purpose, and get your name out there to be close to immortality.
Yes, because you know what it is, JC, and I want to bring this up because you just maybe you reminded me of this. So I'm about ready to have a daughter here within the next couple of weeks. My wife is almost pretty much any day now. I have a son, 8 years old son. So here's what I'm getting at: is this? If you are building wealth, and I've already did this with my son. I actually have some not accounts, but I have some stocks and ETFs that I allocate for him in my portfolio. You don't want to get it set up on them because when they go to apply for any financial aid if they need it for school, then not a student loan but financial aid, they'll look at all their assets and say, oh wait, you make too much money, you can't get it. Because a lot of these rich people in America, they do that. They apply for financial aid and their kids still get it. So they're basically bucking the system. But here's what I'm getting at. If you have that generational wealth, when your daughter turns 12 or 13 years old, or your son, and they go through puberty, especially with your daughters, they're going to see you building wealth. You're going to be managing. This is what Jews do. And I learned this because I spoke to a Jewish friend of mine at work, and he gave me this idea. That's why I'm telling black people, you got to listen to everything you hear. Here's the thing. When my son and daughter get into middle school, I am going to sign a contract with them. I'm going to sit them down and I'm going to say, okay, here is your contract. I'm going to draft this contract up, make it look formal, and I'm going to have them sign it. It's going to have all the rules and regulations that I want for them to do, to follow during middle school, and I am going to pay them. Yes, from the time they go to middle school, they will be earning money because I need them to start thinking about money and the worth of it when they're in school, from the time they start till the time they get out of school. By the time they come out of high school and they get ready to go to college or trade school, they will know all about financial management. This is so important because when you teach this to you, especially your young girls, what it does, it shields them from boys out there who think they know it all and they're trying to get to your daughter. It shields them from that. It also helps your son understand his value, that he is not here to give money to a female. That is not the reason why he's in this world. He is in here to selfishly make money and to prosper and to build wealth. That way he can then generate this wealth for his family and build wealth for his family and pass it down. That's what they both need to understand. And that way your daughter, if she understands how wealth works, when she goes out there and she gets seeked out by a male when she's ready to get married, she will know what type of male she needs to look for as far as finances is concerned. Because here's the thing, love is great. Oh, I love you and all this other stuff. That's great. But the bottom line is this, love is not the number one priority when it comes to marriage.
You can't pay
Marriage,
bills with loves.
you cannot pay bills with love. Marriage is about business. It's an agreement between two people that says, hey, we agree to live the rest of our lives and to raise children and support them and to build a family empire for the rest of our life. And this is a mutual agreement. Okay. This is what needs to be taught. And the reason why you have to have that generational wealth is because if you don't, they won't listen to the words that come out of your mouth. Like me, I get one more thing I say, and I didn't need to, but like I said, I like cars. I just recently bought me a certified, not a brand new. You don't want to buy a car brand new. I recently bought me a certified Mercedes-Benz last season, low mileage. I think it's like a 2017 big Mercedes. Nice. The reason why I bought that car, I love it, but the other reason, the big reason, because when my son sees his dad driving these kind of cars, it puts a bug in his head. And he sees that daddy is generating income and daddy is generating wealth, and therefore daddy is driving a nicer car than most of the people I see outside my house. It is not here to draw attention. It is to get his attention and then later my daughter's attention as to, oh, this is where we need to be. We need to be thinking about. I'm not saying you need to be materialistic to show that. What I'm saying is you need to let them know that you know how to make decisions that's going to make their life comfortable, and this is what you're passing down to them for their life. So that's why you need generational wealth, because you will have more control over influencing your family.
I was taking notes. I would, because me, I have, and again, before I start, I want to say thank you for coming here in the panel, because as you said, your wife is due. She can she can basically pop at any time. I'm happy we had so much time so far to talk, because we could have had a call or someone calling you and tell, hey, you got to exit and right
Yes.
straight on the live because your wife is about to give birth to your daughter. And so
Yeah,
thank you again for
no
still,
problem.
even with that, you taking the time to share your insights, to share your experience, and to learn, and to so that we can learn from your experience. But yes, I love what you said, because I have a newborn son. I'm
Congratulations. Yes.
Yes, I have a newborn son. He's very cute. I don't know how. I don't know how, but oh my God, he's very cute guy, and then this guy is going to be a problem, man. Like he's he was 6 months. He's still doing high to little girls that are 2 years old,
Yes,
man.
yes. He's like going to be a man.
Yo, man,
Yes.
this guy is good looking. He's going to be a lady's boy. And then,
Yes,
man, I'm already working with him with his portfolio, man. Like, first
yes,
thing I like, one of the toys I bought for him was like a fake, like 100, like a stack of $10,000,
yes,
so he
yes,
can hold it and play with it and bite on it. And then I bought him silver. I bought him Bitcoin,
yes.
very deep in crypto. So I bought him Bitcoin. And one of the things I'm looking into buying for him is a life insurance so that by the time he's 2021, he can have that cover already paid and just have to wait until like he needs it, take a loan from it if he needs to, whatever.
Oh,
But
that's a good idea. It's a good idea.
many things that I'll be doing with this kid. One of the things I wanted to do, because this guy is actually very photogenic. He smiles a lot. So I want to actually start looking for gigs where I can actually get people to hire him, take pictures for
Yes,
baby clothing and all that, and
yes,
I'm literally looking into buying a professional camera and diving deep in photography and video making so that I can use him as a model and pay him and invest his money in his real estate. But I love what you said, because when you start going to high school and then using that contract, that makes it formal, makes it
yes,
legit, makes it understand them. It teach them so much value about how the world works, making a
yes,
business, and the value of not just talking about it, but doing the action, show it. The kids learns a lot that way, so that
yes,
when you start them young, by the time they're 18, 20, 21, they're ready to take the world over. And there's a lot of families that I see,
mhm,
like my brother, we in Montreal, we went to private school, and
yes,
and a lot of them, although many in this private school, you had people from Haiti like us, and you had people that are very wealthy in this private school, and the difference after school, it's noticeable. People that
yes,
were not financially educated, you knew that by the second year after school, after high school. And then people that were financially educated, you knew that
mhm,
right away, and that was
yes,
so obvious. And one of the things I realized is because these guys, they were ready. They were
yes,
ready, and it takes times to help them become that comfortable with managing money, managing their income,
yes,
and build their own portfolio, and so that they can earn that honor onward, like the income that they don't work for. So
yes,
again, I'm taking notes because that aspect I did not think about it. And I like that you said that it comes from a Jewish family, because these guys are the gold standard
yes.
when it comes
They
to
are.
building wealth.
Yes,
2 generation after the second war, and now they're influential worldwide. This is
mhm,
an astonishing accomplishment. So there is a lot we can learn from them. So again, thank
yes,
you for sharing that. But yeah, any is there, like, I know it's coming. There's a lot of times, but is there any other points you wanted to share when it comes to building
yeah,
generational wealth?
yeah, yeah. So what I need to we need to know is this: we need, like you said, community is very important, but we have to also understand too that we are not here to save the world. Okay, we because we are really behind. We black people don't understand. We are. Thank you, Lindsay. We are really behind. We really are because we don't have time to waste. The dumbest thing that I think a black man can do is to fall in somebody's prison because that just literally takes him back in his generations back years. Because if he becomes incarcerated, he has no wealth, he has no way of generating wealth, he has nothing. So, as black men, especially black men, we have to manage our families. We have to learn how to manage our families. We really do. And we have to have a wife that is wifeable and that is willing to be on our page when it comes to managing the family. They have their role that they have to manage, but we as men have to take that lead because we are men. So therefore, we have to be with a female that understands that. That is so important. I'm going to turn this light on. I'm sorry. That is so important. I can't stress that enough. That
No.
is so important. You have to be able to manage your family well. Now, you have to also understand this. The last thing you want to do when, like, I live in a nice neighborhood, but the last thing I want to ever do, and I wouldn't have bought my car if I could not even afford it. The last thing I would ever do is try to keep up with the Joneses. And here's what I mean. If in the mortgage, okay, the average American is paying more than 33% of their income is going toward their mortgage. That's really bad, right?
Mm.
For me, I'm only using just a little bit over 10% of my income toward my mortgage. So
Wow.
therefore, I'm able to pay extra. Therefore, I'm able to pay down my mortgage quicker. So what you need to do is you need to understand that you should try to pay that house off as quick as you can, because those property taxes, as your property appreciates, are going to come into play. Okay, so you may be starting off paying like $4,000 a year for property taxes, which is going to add another, say, X amount of dollars to your mortgage payment. People get all upset. Oh my goodness, property taxes went up 1%. My mortgage is going up. No, your mortgage is not going up because it's locked. Your property taxes are going up. Because in America, when you make that mortgage payment, you pay your homeowner's insurance with it, your property taxes go into escrow, and then your mortgage. You pay that. But you have to learn how to pay your mortgage. What you do is you have them draw it out automatically every 2 weeks, not the entire mortgage. Let's say your mortgage is like $2,000 a month to make it easy. Every 2 weeks, you have them take out $1,000, right, to pay towards your mortgage. What this does is twice a year, that all the money that they take out each time, that twice a year is going to happen. All that money will go all toward principal twice a year. Yes. So that $1,000 you're taking out every 2 weeks, twice a year, the whole $1,000 is going to go toward principal. So it means you're paying an extra $2,000 every year towards your principal, besides what you're paying every month. See, you have to develop a plan. You have to know, how to pay down your debt, and you also have to know how to manage your debt. There are things in your home that you can pay off right away if you have. Like, for example, I bought a heat pump for my house. I have central heat, but I didn't have central air. It doesn't get that cold up. I mean, that hot up here in Washington State. But with global warming and the forest fires, I decided last winter to get me a heat pump. Right? They put a lien on your house. You pay your little monies for 15 years. Me, I'm not paying it for 15 years. I'm paying it off next year. That means that's mine. So manage your debt, keep your debt low, and try to pay your house off as quick as you can, and you're going to be sitting pretty at the end.
And that's a great point right there, especially when you're managing your debt, because the faster you pay off things, then the less monthly income you need.
Yes, that's what I'm getting at. Yes,
The
yes,
faster you pay things, then you don't need as much money. Let's say you have your car, you have
yes,
your mortgage, for example, you have, like you say, the heat pump in the house, and then the faster you're able to pay things, then it reduces your living expenses, and the
yes,
lower your living expenses, the easier it is to get retirement and have your
yes,
investment paying for your living expenses, because that's the secret to freeing your time and
yes,
earning back your time and your freedom. It's having your investment paying for your living expenses, and the faster you pay for that, then the easier it is to achieve. And then also I wanted to mention is one of the steps to do that is find ways to increase your income. Find ways to increase your income, whether it's to regularly asking for a raise, whether it is for a side job, side hustle. If you are single, you definitely want to go for that. If you're single, you have no time for women. Have time for your investments, and then the women will follow. They will see your wealth. Maybe it's someone like had a dad like Tony here, that taught the woman that the right man to understand, to follow, to get to understand. So they will see you if you working, taking care of your business, and they will approach you. So that would be easy. But when you're young, if you're in your 20s, focus on increasing your income, doing any side job if you have to, invest that money, reduce your debt, increase your liability, and start thinking about retirement early, so that at 35, 40 years old, you're free, you can travel, you can invest that money. While you travel, you can invest that money, and also share that money with the community. Share that money with the causes that you like.
yes. By
Uh,
spending in the community.
Exactly, spending in the community too, and many things like you can do, but invest in yourself, invest in your education, learn about financial literacy, learn about how to make more money, and yes, and pay your debt, and then basically reduce your debt, because that's definitely one of the things that's going to guide you towards um, uh, basically early
Uh,
retirement. But you had something you wanted to
yeah,
mention.
yeah, Jason, I wanted to add on that because you brought up a good point about the income, about the job thing. What you got to understand, people, is this: if you've been holding on to if you've had a job more than 2 years, you're losing money. Because think about it, the average job is giving you a 2% raise a year. Okay. Inflation right now is hovering around 5.5%. That means you're not getting a raise from that job. You're losing money, right? And that, so bring it and talk about inflation, because with all this investing and all the wealth building, we need to understand how inflation works. Now,
Hmm.
the market on average has gone up since 1820, 10% every year. This is how I choose my funds. I look at the funds, and you know how they'll say, oh, the past year went up this percentage in 5 years and 10 years. I don't look at those numbers. I look at from inception, how high is it going, how much is it going up. That's the most important number, because that is generally where the fund will be. I buy funds that are low double digits or high one digits, like say 8 or 9% and up. If it's making that much money for me, that's above inflation. Another thing too, you know how to invest. Okay, great. You're investing well, really nice. But you also need to know, how do you pull money out of your investment accounts? Here's your portfolios. Here's the thing. What you do is this: you pull 4% plus inflation. So right now, if inflation is at say 5.5%, right? You're going to pull 5.5%, right? So some years you'll pull less. But keep in mind now, the market is going up every year, right? 10%. So if you take about 4 or 5% out of your portfolio every year to live on, guess what? You're still making that 6%. You're still making that money. Too many people pull all kinds of money out their portfolio and end up losing money because they don't understand the percentages. They're pulling like 15, 20, even 30% out of their portfolio every year. And then they wonder, oh my goodness, my money's drying up. No, do that 4% for each portfolio. So if you have four portfolios and each of them worth $100,000, do the math, right? 4%, you're pulling 4,000 from each one of those. That's not the only income you're earning, right? That's $16,000. If you're getting like any like Social Security in some cases, I don't know what they call it in Canada, but US they call it Social Security or pensions or whatever, you can tally that money up. Your portfolios are still making money and you're living good. You want to
Mm.
take a vacation? You might draw a little bit extra. Inflation happens, no problem. You just take a little bit more to cover for inflation, but you're still making money. You have to know how to use that portfolio, not just invest in it.
Mm. That's a great point right here. That's actually a point I haven't been considered yet. And again, that people, that's what I'm saying, people. That's what I'm saying. I'm 35 years old. I've, I have some life
You
experiences that
have a
are
youth.
painful. I have some life experiences that are painful, but I'm just 35 years old. We can learn from other people. You can learn from other people's mistakes. You can learn from other people's success. You can learn from others people's life experience. Now,
Wait, you
as I
said you're
mentioned,
35 years old?
yes, I am.
When are you going to be 36?
February next year.
Okay, you do know what day were you born on February? I was born on February 11th.
27th, I think. Yeah.
Okay, so 27th. Okay, so you
I'm a
turned 30.
fish.
Okay, you're but no Pisces, but Chinese astrology. I believe you're the year of the tiger, like myself.
Oh yeah, I like
Because
that.
yeah, I'm 24 years older than you, so I'm the year of the tiger.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah,
Because
you see, you can
because
check.
honestly, I think there's an inner tiger in me.
Yes, I
'Cause
can check. You may be on the border between the tiger and the one before that, the ox. I honestly think you may be the ox because the ox is very intelligent. The tiger is too, but the ox is very structured.
Mm,
It just
I don't
depends on
know.
when the year started.
I feel more I would like the tiger, but I'll check it out and see.
Yes,
I
yes,
think I actually checked it. I think I don't think I saw the ox. I did see the tiger, right? But anyway, like all
yes.
that to say that people, we at the beginning of the podcast, if you're new here, you haven't watched the podcast, rewind it back on some other time. We said it. Smart people learn from their mistakes, but these mistakes are painful. Painful. There are some mistakes. And I'll make another podcast of the mistakes I've done financially and what I've learned so far. But that's another day. That's another topic for another day. But these mistakes are painful. Now,
Yes.
we have someone here willing to share his time, his wife almost due. You can get a call. We'll have to shut down the stream because
Yeah.
the water might break.
Yes.
And he's taking his time to share some knowledge. And that is something that I have not thought about, Tony.
Yes. Yes.
Building your portfolio. And because me, the way I thought about it, honestly,
Hmm.
is
Hmm.
just the dividends, focusing on the dividends, and then one reinvesting those dividends. And then
Yes.
one day, let's say the number that you need to be comfortable to have, like, let's say if you want 4,000, 5,000 a month to be
Yes.
retired, then
Hmm.
that is equal to a portfolio size of $2 million, let's say, or
Hmm.
maybe 3 million. And then if you get to that number, and then you just collect the dividend at the end of the month and just leave the money there so that it can appreciate over time.
Hmm.
But that's something that I didn't consider because some on one of my other portfolios, it's not dividend, it's just for like growth. It's a growth portfolio, like companies like
Yes.
Tesla,
Hmm.
companies that are like, and these portfolios, they don't pay dividends. So you're going to have to think of a way to pull out the money and leave some a lot more of it
So
left
that
so
way
that
to
it can
grow.
accumulate over time.
Yes.
And if you have a smart way of doing so, then yes. And I'm going to actually rewind this part back so I can better understand it and look into it, because that's a concept I haven't heard of before. And that's
Yes.
a great point. Especially if someone is building a portfolio that is not paying dividend. And then, because there's a lot of people who do that, there's a lot of people, they're not necessarily looking at the dividend, but they're looking at the big number, like the 2 3
Yes.
million, and
Yes.
then using that as a way to pull out their money for retirement. and
Hmm.
and I hear some stories where baby boomers, at first, the first year, first 2 3 years of their retirement, they get excited, they put a lot
Yes.
of money down, and then they get to a point where that money that they spend the entire life saving up, it's
It's
starting to
gone.
dry low, and then they're having to cut down on their expenses, moving to a smaller condo, like start looking things differently around here, because that money may, if you live 20 25 years,
Yes.
that money may not last that long. So if
Yes.
you have a smart way of pulling out that money,
Yes.
combining it with like government incomes, because you're collecting pensions, or now for millennials, we have no pension, but it's going to be TFSC,
Mhm.
RSSP in Canada, and I think in the States, I think Roth IRA, or
Yeah, we got Roth. We got, well, the different. There's different ones. Roth, 401k,
yeah,
IRA. Yeah, we got different
exactly.
ones.
But yeah,
Yes.
again, thank you for sharing this knowledge. You drop a lot of gold knowledge here, but this
Oh,
one
thanks.
definitely went straight deep. And again, I like what you're saying about the kids too. These definitely the two key points I'm going to really reflect on and meditate on, because
Yes.
these are worth it. But again, but it's getting late. We're going
Yes.
to
Yes.
two
Thank you.
hours.
Yes.
And again, but so all that to say, people, so in conclusion, we're talking about why is it important to build wealth. We spent a
Yes.
lot of time talking about that today, but at the end of the day, building wealth can help you living a life that you're comfortable. And we're not talking about being filthy rich here. We're talking about
Yeah.
living comfortably, but
Yes.
also using that as a way, as a stepping stone for your legacy, so that they can build more wealth and influence over time. You can use your wealth as well to help your community, whichever community you are, whichever foundation causes that you like. You can use some of that money to help the society become better,
Mhm.
help the causes. People, there's a lot of things that need to be there's a lot of things that needs change. And if you're living to paycheck, you have no influence, you have no means, no power to actually change things. You're just talking online, comment section, but you're not actually influencing things with your money and to make things change. So
Mhm.
that's why it's important to build wealth. And again, retire early. Think
Yes.
about retirement early. Tony mentioned, if you like the stock market, think about the dividend paying stocks. They're very good. You can use that as a way so that you can pay your living expenses. Think about reducing your wealth, reducing your debt, and increasing your net worth by buying more assets. And then you have a lot of wealth that you can pass down to your next generation. They can
Yes.
influence the world in any different ways. But why is it important to build generational wealth? Because that's how you learn that's how you earn your time and
Yes.
your freedom. You
Yes.
need to earn your time and your freedom back. Um, you mentioned something that is very deep, especially in the Black community. A lot of people are one job lost away
Yes.
from losing everything, their
Yes.
house, everything they work for. Imagine you've been working on a job for 15 years, you get laid off or you get fired, or maybe AI is taking over your job, maybe the
Yes.
market is doing something. Imagine all this is happening one, and then 3 months after you lose your job, you're losing your house, you're losing your
Mm.
car. It's because you're not managing money right. If you're investing a lot of that money in
Yes.
in the stocks that can pay you, right? If you're
Mhm.
investing that money in crypto, for example, in any way that you're buying assets, even in real estate, it doesn't even have to be stocks and crypto. It could be in real estate
Yes.
also. If you're investing that money, then that money would have been paying you in the time that you would need it the most.
Mhm.
And that could make a significant difference in your life. So, in conclusion, guys, why we talk about many points. I'm gonna give the last word to Tony. And again, Tony, thank you for your time.
No
Thank you for
problem, brother.
your
Thank you for bringing me
insights.
on.
Really appreciate it. Thank you for being the first guest of the Wealth Engineering
Thank you. Thank
podcast.
you, brother.
And
Thank you.
then I'll leave the last word to you.
Yes, and I want to give a special shout out to you, Wealth Engineering JC. Thank you for inviting me on. I'm honored to be your first guest here on this podcast. I know it's going to grow. I'm looking forward to doing more podcasts with you. I like the experience. I'm up here, guys, because all my life I've always cared about helping my people. And I'm the kind of man that's going to tell my people straight to their faces what's going on. I'm not here to blow smoke for anybody. I'm here to tell people the truth. Sometimes people don't want to hear it. Sometimes people get offended by it. Sometimes people get hurt by it. But we have a lot of work to do, guys. We have a lot of work to do, and we really don't have much wealth. Like I said, we're sitting on 1/2 of 1% of the wealth in the United States. I don't know what our black people are sitting, what kind of wealth they're sitting on in the rest of the world. But I know in America, supposedly we're the richest country in the world, we're not getting all the fruit that we should be getting. We're just getting, if we're lucky, we're getting the stem of the apple. We're not even getting a bite, or we might be getting the skin if we're lucky. But that has to change. And in order for that to change, you have to start working on your generation now, which means you have to start working on yourself. You have to start building wealth. You have to shore up your relationships that you're in. You have to get your mate, your wife, your husband on the same page. For the ladies, unfortunately for you, you have a little bit more work to do because a lot of you are single in America. A lot of you, 75% of you, will never get married. So you have to get more creative in your processes. You have to look at the numbers. You have to understand that you aren't making as much money. You are in more debt than you think you are. So in order for you to, when you start to understand that, then you need to start turning the tables on that. Otherwise, you're going to be pushing a shopping cart at 70 years old. That is the reality of it all. And that is not where you want to be. So you have to invest even more than, say, a couple. So I'm just honored to be up here. And yes, and you do have to think about those taxes. Thank you, Cashflow Hunter. You have to think about those taxes too. But I'm just up here to say thank you. Thank you, JC, for having me up on this platform. And I look forward to doing more platforms. Thank you.
Of course, and yes, and again, you'll be. I think I will. We'll talk after on other podcast,
Yes.
other ideas to have. But again, thank you again, Tony. But I think you're going to need some time
Yeah,
because you're gonna
yeah.
have a
Thank you.
newborn coming in. Uh, oh man, these are the fun days, right? At least
Yeah,
when
and
the when
congrats to
the
you for having the new one. I love it when I see more of us make more children. I love seeing more of us born. I love it,
yes,
especially in good families.
and then
Yes,
working with them young, working with them
yes,
young. Again, as I mentioned, guys, there is a pattern, and it's not just in the Black community. Sometimes
yes,
as immigrants, there's a lot of immigrants, they
yes,
don't necessarily get the financial literacy. There is a pattern of poor behaviors from generation to generation. It
yes,
needs to be changing. Why not start with you? Why
yes,
not start being educated, being financially literate, doing the steps now so that you have better life for yourself now and for your next generation? Imagine having your grandchildren enjoying their life because someone that they never
yes,
met, that is had the same last name as them, did something differently than everybody
yes.
else.
Yes.
That is why
That is
it is
my
important.
dream. Yes.
That is exactly that. Me too. I want to be. I want to feel like I'm immortal.
Yes.
so 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 anyway, if you guys are new, if you just got here on the podcast, go back in the beginning. You'll understand what I mean about being immortal. But yes, again, but all that to say, we've been there for about 2 hours. But I'll let you go,
Yes.
Tony. Thank you
Thank you.
for your time. We'll have you back on the panel again to discuss more about wealth. And again, everybody, share, please like and subscribe, and we'll be sharing more part stream and podcast to help you and motivate you and educate you as well on how to build your wealth and increase your network. With that said, we'll talk on the next one.
Thank you. Thanks, JC. Thanks, brother. Take it easy, man.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.